Marlon Humphrey ripped into the Ravens defense after their Week 10 win over the Cincinnati Bengals. We talk about that. A former Bengals receiver getting real on Lamar Jackson and so much more coming up next here on this episode of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens WR here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here today, making Locked On Ravens both a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. Free and available for you, all podcasting platforms. That includes in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel, also in audio form, where you can follow along and subscribe over there for 5 days a week. Plus more of daily Ravens coverage. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. May I interest everyone today in a Victory Friday and a Purple Friday? You got a double dose of Friday here. The Ravens defeat the Cincinnati Bengals 35-34 in another instant classic game. Plenty of positives to talk about, plenty of negatives to talk about. It was one of those games where, hey, a win is a win, right? You got to take the win. It's a big divisional victory you're able to get, and you move to 7-3, 2-1 in the division. That's huge. You're able to come back down 14 in the third quarter. Those are all good things. But as we're going to talk about here in the first part of the show, man, that defense has a lot of work to do, and we are now 10 weeks into the season. They need to fix stuff up, and they need to fix it up fast, but we also might just be facing the reality this Ravens defense, particularly in the secondary, just is not very good this season, despite having what I think is actually a decently talented unit in terms of the actual guys that they have. Marlon Humphrey will talk about his comments and what he had to say. He ripped in to the defensive unit, so we'll talk about those comments in the first part of the show. Then we got a former Bengals receiver, Chad Johnson, who got real on Lamar Jackson on Nightcap with obviously Shannon Sharp. And then we will get into some general Ravens and Bengals analysis. We went live after the game immediately, and we broke down everything there. We'll break it down a little more here now, having just a little bit more time to have everything sink in. But let's get into Marlon's comments, because Marlon, he's fed up. He's fed up. And look, a lot of people are, right? I mean, the players, the coaches, the fans, everybody is fed up with the way that this Ravens defense, particularly in the secondary again, has played this season. You got Ja'Marr Chase, who went for almost 300 yards on this unit, 264. Joe Burrow just slicing and dicing despite not having T. Higgins, Eric All, Zach Moss, Orlando Brown. It was a banged-up Bengals unit, and the one guy you kind of had to stop in Ja'Marr Chase. You just let him run absolutely wild on you. So Marlon Humphrey called the Ravens defense the little brothers of the team. And that's a big thing to say. Like, that's a big statement, Marlon, little brothers of the team. The full quote, I mean, there's a lot. Like, there's a long answer that Marlon Humphrey gave, and I'll read it out because, that's the point here. Here we go. Marlon, he talked about Ja'Marr Chase, that big performance. Marlon said, quote, "I'm tired of that dude. Ja'Marr Chase is just different. It's not even so much about the routes he runs, whatever. It's just when he gets the ball in his hands, if you don't tackle him soon, it can get really ugly. He's a good player. You never really can count the Bengals out when he's on their team. I think he had over 250 receiving yards, which is rough. These wins are getting harder to enjoy based off of what we're doing in the pass defense. I feel like when I was a rookie, first-year guy, second-year guy, the vets I looked up to and the standard that was there in the pass defense, we've really lost that standard, and I feel like that falls on me. We're going to keep chasing at it. We're going to keep working at it because I'm not really satisfied with what I've built in the secondary and where it's gone. I just don't think with us playing like this that we can go far. It's cool winning. It's great we're winning, but I want to go far. I want to go to the end. The way we're playing, something has got to change. We've got to play better. I've got to play better. We've all got to play better. We've got to play as a unit. We're not doing that. There's really nothing more to say. We've got to keep working. We got to take the practice to the game. We had a great practice this week. What is missing there from how we're practicing to how we're playing in the game? It's becoming clear that it's something. I think each guy has got to look at themselves in the mirror and figure it out. Why are you not playing how you practice something? You practice the route concept, and then in the game you don't do it how you practice. It's becoming more of a mental thing, I think. but we got to get that fixed. It's now cool to win a game, and you look up and the team has 300 passing yards on you every week. It'd be different if we didn't have any guys that could play. I haven't once heard anybody say we don't have the guys, we don't have the players, we don't have the skill. We're not doing it. When we do that last preparation of the game, what is happening in that span? We've got to figure it out. It's pretty simple. I told you it was a long one. It's a long one. That's a lot from Marlon right there. And a bunch of different things that we can talk about there. But this is, I think, a very honest answer. I think it's a very real answer. Because, look, we can be honest. And Marlon's right. The way that they're playing, they're not going to go far. They're not. They can't. The Bengals offense is good. Joe Burrow is incredible. Ja'Marr Chase is incredible. But, again, that Bengals offensive line is terrible. They didn't have their second-best pass-catching weapon, their tight end who was really coming on, and their offensive line is just atrocious as well. And you still let that team put up 34 points on you. That's really tough. The run defense has been pretty solid all season, right? Really solid all season. But, Marlon, it's true. The Ravens win, and that's awesome. You want to keep winning. I'm glad they're winning while they're going through this. But at the same time, it's almost like what we talked about when they lost to Cleveland back a couple weeks ago. It's like wins kind of mask some things where it's like, oh, you won the game, so you can get away with this and that and still win. Where losses, it's like, okay, something has to change now. But the thing is, it hasn't changed in the wins and it hasn't changed in the losses. This defense, passing-wise, has just been terrible all season. And so Marlon ripped into this unit. He got real on it. I think he spoke from the heart here. You can tell, and if you watch the clip of him speaking, or at least some of the clips of him speaking, Marlon was pissed off. Marlon was mad. And he should be. The whole secondary is just absolutely giving up yard after yard after yard after yard, completion after completion in the passing game. And look, I thought Marlon had the play of the game, right? I said that on a live show. I thought that forced fumble on Chase Brown shifted the momentum of this game, and I think it's a big reason why the Ravens won the contest. But you have Ja'Marr Chase doing what he did. The Bengals on third down seemingly always converted. The middle of the field always seemed open. There were poor angles taken by everybody. It seemed like Brandon Stevens had a rough game. Marcus Williams was lost on the field. It just felt like, for what we have been used to, and Marlon's right. There's a standard. I think this standard for the Ravens now, it's shifted to okay, it's the offense. The offense is the identity of this team. We're obviously watching this team and, growing up and, seeing this team and this, that, and the other, watching it evolve. You talk about the Ray Lewises, the Ed Reeds, Terrell Suggs, Lodi Nada, Tony Siragusa, Chris McAllister. I mentioned this on a live show too. It's like we have now shifted from a defense that was okay, Baltimore Ravens football, that's defense. That's the standard. Well, now it's offense, and that's great, cool. Lamar's doing his thing. We'll talk about Lamar coming up in the second part of the show because he was great again in this game. But standard-wise, this defense, there is a standard in Baltimore of defense, and they're not living up to it. And it's miscommunications, it's poor play calling, it's poor execution, it's everything, right? It's not all Zach Orr, it's not all players. It's a joint combination of everything. And it's situational, timely football that did really well for the Ravens on defense in the game last night. I think timely-wise, again, the Marlon Humphrey play was timely. Baltimore did get a couple of timely stops throughout, including obviously the 2-point conversion that could have put Cincinnati ahead and ultimately had them win the game. But it's true. It gets less and less enjoyable for these guys to win games and be a big reason why the game went poorly. Because I think still the Ravens won, and that's fine and dandy. But if you ask anybody on that secondary, it's no, we played terribly. And they did. And they did. So, look, I thought the run defense was great. I thought the pass rush actually looked improved, and they should against that poor Cincinnati Bengals. If out of everything, if the Ravens had looked bad pass rush-wise against that offensive line, you might as well just throw in the towel for that unit. That's bad. So luckily they did look good. Matabike had 3 sacks and everything, this, that, and the other. But in the secondary, guys were just getting open. Guys were abandoning assignments. And that stuff you have to get right, because you don't beat the Chiefs with that level of performance. Even if the Chiefs aren't as explosive as the Bengals are on offense, the Chiefs will slice and dice you down like that. And the Chiefs have a much better defense than the Bengals do, because once Lamar got in the rhythm, the Bengals couldn't stop him. Like, that was it. Once Lamar got in the rhythm, it was over for the Bengals defense. The Chiefs defense is a little different than that, because the Chiefs defense has a lot more than just one player, and the Chiefs' best player on defense is better than the Bengals player. So what? That's the goal, right? You want to talk about a team that you want to beat, that's the Chiefs. And you have to be able to limit these passing offenses. And the fact that the Bengals don't have a run game, Joe Burrow threw this ball 56 times. 56 times in this game. 56. The Bengals had no run game at all. And I think it's disappointing for everybody, because I also don't think it's a talent issue. I don't. Truly. You have Marlon Humphrey, Brandon Stevens, Nate Wiggins. You got Kyle Hamilton, who did get injured in this game. We do have to put that out there too. Hamilton, they didn't have him for about 2.5 quarters, but I mean, we can be honest, the pass defense wasn't really great with him either. Like, this isn't like, oh, Kyle Hamilton goes out and the top-rated pass defense goes to the worst. I mean, they've been bad with Hamilton on the field too. So, yes, that's a big loss and certainly contributed to some of it, because Hamilton himself is awesome and great and has played well this season. But it also hasn't been great with Kyle on the field. So, it's all of these talented players that are just either not doing their job, or Zach Orr is not calling the right plays. It is a combination of everything. And Marlon's answer here, I think, is a glimpse into, hey, they're going to keep working, keep getting at it and trying to figure it out, because they think they're practicing well enough to go out there and they're practicing stuff and doing it the right way. And then in games, obviously, it's a different story and they're not executing at a high level. So Marlon really did rip into this defense, rip into the passing game, and said that really, like, things need to get better, and they absolutely do. I mean, I think all of us, watching, listening, anything with this Ravens team knows that even if this pass defense can become average, not even just below average, this team has a better shot than anybody to win the Super Bowl with the way this offense is playing. But the issue is right now they are so bad, so far down the bottom of the league, that it is a major, major hindrance and a big concern point for everybody, including myself. Coming up in the second part of the show, we'll talk about what Chad Johnson had to say. He got real on Lamar after the Ravens beat the Bengals in week number 10. Stay tuned, plenty to talk about on the show. First, the show is brought to you by Arena Club. For most of us that like collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on a Lamar Jackson rookie card, say Flowers rookie card, just isn't in the cards. I love collecting, but that's some serious money to drop. Thanks to slab packs from arenaclub.com. Now it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price. A lot of cards listed were hit from last week's Arena Club slab pack drop. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. And look, Arena Club, they got the slab packs. The experience is so awesome because of the display of available cards, the hit rates, the grading, and so much more. It's a lot better than those other mystery packs you might have purchased in the past. Arena Club slab packs revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform you have to check out. Right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL. It's arenaclub.com/LockedOnNFL. Code LockedOnNFL for 10% off your first purchase. And the show is brought to you by Hims. Ever feel like you need a little boost? It's time you stop worrying about your performance and get Hims so you can feel confident whenever you're in the mood. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site. A medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personal ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on products and subscription plan. We're back for our second segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher here with you on this Purple Friday, Victory Friday edition of the show. Ravens beat the Bengals 35-34 in a thriller comeback victory for the Ravens. They were down 21-7. About midway through that third quarter, they come back to beat the Bengals. Appreciate everybody for being here today, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day, your first listen of the day. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button in video form, where we just hit over 9,000 subscribers. We're on the road to 10K. And once we hit 10K, I am wearing a Dixie Cup patterned outfit for an entire week. That was my promise the first day I started up the YouTube channel. And of course, in audio form, be sure to hit that subscribe and follow along button as well, as that community is growing each and every single day. And it has been incredible to watch that grow too. Now, former Bengals wide receiver Chad Johnson, Ocho, he goes and does the nightcap show with Shannon Sharpe, from Ravens tight end, otherwise known as Unk. And they talked about Lamar. They gave Lamar his flowers, and especially Chad Johnson, who, look, they read off his performance. It was another incredible night for Lamar. Primetime Lamar Jackson is probably one of the most unstoppable sports players in history, honestly. I think that there's not a lot that can stop primetime Lamar Jackson. It's really tough to do that. So, look, I think for Lamar, the offense definitely sputtered out early, but that Marlon Humphrey forced fumble got everybody back into it, and that was such a huge turning point in the game. The Ravens went down, scored really, really quickly on that sequence, and I think that was the boost that they needed. And then Lamar kind of took over from there. And as I mentioned, once they got that momentum, it was almost impossible to stop Lamar Jackson. And that's part of the reason why the Bengals did not tie up the game and decided to go for two, because I don't think they wanted anything to do with either Lamar Jackson in overtime or just living with giving the ball back and seeing what he could do with, 30-some seconds left or whatnot. So I just look, even with everything, to me, Lamar did really, really well in this game. Did have a couple of throws that were a little dicey, including one interception that was dropped by Cam Taylor-Britt. But he finished the game going 25-33, 290 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. This is the 6th straight game Lamar's gone over 275 passing yards, and he's somebody that just makes something out of nothing. We know that play in the red zone where he backed up like 10 yards, then came all the way back and almost scored a touchdown. Like, Lamar Jackson is putting his greatness on display. And Chad Johnson, when he was asked about Lamar and they were talking about him, he said, man, what else can I say about Lamar Jackson? There's nothing else to say. And then he kind of went on a little tangent about, how everyone thought that, okay, Lamar, even if he thought he'd be a good quarterback, like this, that, and the other, the fact that he's doing this is absolutely incredible, and talked a bunch about kind of the evolution, and Shannon Sharpe got in on this too, about who he was versus who he is now. And this is the best version of Lamar we've ever seen. I mean, when you talk about Lamar and kind of what expectations were for him, people who believed in Lamar, like, they knew that, he had all-time great potential, right? It was just a matter of him being able to hone his skills and get into a place, get on a team that was going to give him the right opportunities and build around him. Not some team that was going to kind of go and do it halfway. They needed a team that was going to commit to Lamar, commit to his skill set, and make sure that he had every opportunity to succeed. And that's exactly what the Ravens did. John Harbaugh, Eric DeCosta, Ozzie Newsome, Steve Bisciotti, everybody, they made sure that they did it right. And, while we've talked about the Ravens, have they provided him enough talent over the course of his career? It's definitely, the answer is no on some of that. But the offense, they have made it a point for Lamar. And so this is the practical evolution, right, of when you believe in somebody, this is what it is. So, depending on what your expectations were for Lamar, whether you thought he was going to be this good, whether you thought he was going to be average, whether you didn't think he was going to pan out, the fact of the matter is, he's breaking records on seemingly a weekly basis again. Really, ever since coming into the league, he's been breaking team records, league records. It's just the beauty of what Lamar Jackson can do. And the evolution, especially last night's game, you saw it on full display again. He's just so cool, calm, and collected. He works his way outside the pocket when he needs to. He's able to sit back in the pocket and just dice you apart. And I think for him, a lot of the stuff was, if you make him throw, you win the game. Don't make him do this. Don't make him do that. The Ravens, this was a poor rushing game by their standards. They only had 4 yards of carry, 25 for 99. Their 100-yard rush streak actually got stopped because of Lamar Jackson's kneel down at the very end. But Lamar only had 7 carries for 33 yards. And Lamar has always been a pass-first quarterback. All right. If you've listened to Lamar Jackson talk and speak about the quarterback position and kind of who he is, he always has preferred throwing to running, right? I think that a common misconception, maybe not among Ravens fans, but among national media and national people, has been, oh, well, Lamar says run first quarterback, and, he can just happens to throw the football. That's never what it was. Lamar has always been able to throw the football. He's always been able to throw it well, and we're seeing it week in and week out. He took advantage of a very poor Bengals secondary. He's seeing things. He's throwing guys open, and he's making really tough throws every single week. And you love what you see from him. And look, Chad Johnson loves it. Shannon Sharp loves it. Everybody loves it. But when you talk about MVP as well, there's a lot of other conversations because Chad Johnson was also talking about, okay, well, he's back in the lead now, right? And Shannon Sharp and Chad Johnson both talked about this, honestly. But, if you had thought Jared Goff, if you had thought Josh Allen, or they also mentioned Derrick Henry in the conversation too, Lamar Jackson is most definitely back in the lead for the MVP. I mean, to me, I think he wrapped up the MVP tonight. 14-point comeback win, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's on pace to throw, I believe he's on pace to throw 40-plus touchdowns, maybe even 50. I don't know the exact stats off the top of my head right now, but he's on pace to break his 36 career high total that he had back in 2019 when he won his first MVP. Lamar's the MVP. I mean, I don't even know how you can argue against it at this point. I don't. I get Joe Burrow's awesome. The Bengals are 4-6. Lions are awesome. They're 7-1. I get it, but the gap between Lamar and Jared Goff is big enough where I'm taking the Ravens with their record and Lamar over the Lions in their record with Jared Goff. For MVP, we can talk about how both teams match up. Is that a potential Super Bowl matchup? I don't know. But to me, Lamar Jackson is absolutely the MVP, and there are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And this game, to me, I think really solidified that. Because, again, on the national stage, Lamar shows up when the lights are on, lights get bright. Lamar makes sure that he is front and center, and wasn't looking great for about 2.5 quarters of this game. But, it's kind of like how I feel about Lamar on third down now. Like 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20. There's a lot more calm in me. I obviously don't like it. Like I wanted to be in 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 3rd and short. But, man, give me Lamar Jackson. And now it's like, okay, Ravens are down 10, down 14. Hey, give me Lamar Jackson. Let's see what happens. So, awesome game from Lamar. And, again, former players, even former Bengals receiver, right? Shannon and Chad had a little thing going because obviously Ravens, Bengals, and, so obviously Chad now has to pay up on that. But, yeah, Lamar did his thing 100% in this game. But coming up in the final part of the show, we'll dive into more of a general Ravens and Bengals analysis, talk about the passing game, the running game, offense, defense, and a lot more. So be sure to stay tuned. Plenty to talk about on the show. First, the show is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has a tool set to find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And for me, I've had a ton of great experiences over on LinkedIn, networking, connecting, finding jobs. LinkedIn is great. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job. Might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. Sorry for not looking on LinkedIn and looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. It's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get 100 in the game, you can check out the latest stats, live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. We're going to start with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We return our final segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher here with you, Friday edition of the show. We'll be back here for a couple of bonus episodes this weekend. I'm sure there are going to be plenty of headlines for Friday and Saturday. We'll talk about on Saturday and Sunday, so be sure to stay tuned for those. And, of course, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button here on YouTube. Follow along and subscribe in audio form as well. Word of mouth is still really, really key here. So if you have a friend or a family member who enjoys the Ravens, wants some Ravens coverage, daily Ravens content, be sure to send them our way over on Locked On Ravens. And thank you so much to all the everydayers out there who listen, watch every single day. If you're new to the channel, welcome in. Hopefully you stay a while. And if you're somewhere in the middle, welcome back into the show. Now, the Ravens and Bengals, let's just get into some general things here because as we've talked about, Lamar played awesome. Joe Burrow played awesome. But to me, the big storyline here, at least one of them, how about Tylan Wallace? Let's go. Tylan Wallace stepping up to the plate, 3 for 115. Obviously, the one that people are talking about is that 84-yarder down the sideline, just atrocious Bengals tackling through and through there. But, hey, Tylan Wallace, heck of an effort there to get into the end zone, and really big play for the Ravens. Really, really big play. And Tylan also had a couple of other really big catches throughout the game. Personally, I'd like to see Deontay Johnson get less snaps than Tylan Wallace. I think Tylan, I would love to see him as the number 3 guy. Like, I understand why they got Deontay, and it was a rough game for Deontay. He had to get a route where he just stumbled and fell, and then he also got kind of tripped up on that play before the half where wasn't able to get out of bounds. But Tylan just hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities over the course of his career. I think he's a really talented player, and I'd love to see him get more opportunities. So he did really, really well. Mark Andrews all the way back. All the way back. There were 2 players that we were kind of iffy about to start the season. Mark Andrews, Justin Tucker. Mark Andrews, I have no worries. He goes 6 for 68 and a score. And then you got Justin Tucker. This is such a hard conversation to have. It really is. I was talking about, thinking about doing it, and we have to obviously talk about him. But it's really tough to see his struggles this season. Obviously, misses the extra point. It's so rare for him to do that. He didn't have a field goal attempt tonight. Only, extra points. He goes 3 for 4. But, this is a thing now. We're 10 weeks into the season, and Tucker just hasn't found it this season. And, you're hopeful that he can get it going late, of course, right? Like, I'm rooting for Justin. I hope he turns it around. I really do. But, we have to sit here and be honest about the situation and say that, Justin Tucker looks mortal this season, which is something that we've never said about him since he came in the league back in 2012. Like, even as a rookie, he was making kicks to send the Ravens to AFC Championship games and huge kicks in the Super Bowl. Like, Justin Tucker's always been that dude. But, he's struggled from 50. There have been even kicks from within 50 where they've kind of gone off to the left, and he's talked about technique issues and getting that right. But, it seems like it's just a different thing with him. And, you still have those moments with him. I'm not saying it's all bad. He'll still just nail a 56-yarder straight down the middle. And that's like, okay, yeah, that's Justin Tucker, right? But I think we've just seen more and more moments from him this season where he just hasn't looked like Justin Tucker. And, that's a big part of why the Ravens have been so successful over the last decade plus has been, you have a field goal kicker that you can rely on. Obviously, it was really no harm, no foul because the Ravens went for 2 after Tucker missed the extra point and got it. So, it didn't really make a huge difference there. But that's still a big turning point in the game where instead of tying up the game, you're down by 1. And, the Ravens won by 1 point. But if the Ravens don't get that 2-point conversion, the Bengals score and they win the game without even kicking an extra point. So it's been rough for Justin Tucker. And, I really hate to see his struggles. I do. I root for it to get better. But, we have to see if that will come over the course of this season. Man, these Ravens linebackers can't cover. We got to call it like it is. Roquan's been pretty bad in pass coverage this season, and that was one of his big strengths coming over from Chicago. We saw it over the first year and a half he was in Baltimore. But, man, it's been a fall for Roquan this season. I think run defense, he's good. Run defense, he's really, really good still. A couple of really big plays in the run game on Thursday night. But, man, teams are just picking on Roquan this season in the passing game, and it's uncharacteristic, and it's a concern. That's a big concern. But I will say, and I mentioned it, the pass rush looked better. I mentioned Nnamdi Madubuike with his 3 sacks. Great game from him. I thought Travis Jones disrupted. Edafe Owe had moments. Calvin Noy had moments. Tavius Robinson had moments. I think everybody had moments in this game, which was really good to see. Now, that's against a really bad, bottom 5 O-line in the league. So you have to be able to capitalize on that against the Pittsburgh offense next week and moving forward. But at least I'm very encouraged by what we saw from this defensive line. But I have to have to give a shout out to the Ravens offensive line. I thought they were phenomenal in this game, at least protecting Lamar Jackson. In the run game, I know that they didn't really run a ton, and when they did, it didn't really go anywhere for the most part. But pass protection, man, the Ravens had some penalties in this game for sure. By the way, terribly officiated game on both sides, missed calls both ways, and it impacted the results of the game for sure, both ways. But this Ravens offense, I mean, Ronnie Stanley on Trey Hendrickson. Ronnie won that battle. The Bengals had 0 sacks in this game. I'm giving all the credit in the world to that Ravens offensive line. I don't have the grades in front of me right now, but I'm sure when they come out, it's going to be really good. I think the whole O-line played great, and I'm really proud of them, especially after the start of the year that they had to bounce back and turn around like they did. You know, you really couldn't imagine a better scenario for them here. And again, Bengals defensive line, are you scared of Joseph Ossai? Are you scared of, BJ Hill? Are you scared of Sam Hubbard? Those are quality, good players, but they're not elite. Trey Hendrickson is elite. And I thought the Ravens offensive line stepped up big time. Run through some team stats here quickly. As I mentioned, third down, Bengals end up going 8 for 16, Ravens 7 of 12. These defenses just did not want to play on third down. They just, take the first down. That's all, go ahead, do that. Bengals outgained the Ravens by almost 100 yards, 470 to 389. But the Ravens had one more total drive. So the Bengals were more efficient with their yards on their drives than the Ravens were. But the Ravens averaged more yards per pass with 8.8, which was just absolutely incredible. And actually, I think I'm going to pull up the stat quickly. Let's see, Lamar, third down. We're doing some live research on the show right now. Lamar Jackson on third down in the second half. Actually, just in general, we'll go in general. The entire game, 10 of 11 for 162 yards, 3 touchdowns, 158.3 rating, 1.7 EPA per drop back. Just absolutely incredible stuff from Lamar Jackson on third down and in the game, passing-wise, just dicing this Bengals defense up, as he should have. And then you look at the Bengals just 3 penalties for 23 yards in this game. Ravens 11 for 81. Look, there were missed calls on both sides. It was terrible both ways. I'm not going to sit here and say that the Ravens got hosed by the refs only or the Bengals got hosed by the refs only. No, it was both teams. Both teams had no calls against them. Both teams had calls that shouldn't have happened against them. Clete Blakeman was awful on Thursday night. And so hopefully that officiating crew comes nowhere near Baltimore for the rest of the season. Bengals held the ball for 31-35, Ravens for 28-25, so pretty even in that regard. And both teams 100% in the red zone, 3 for 3 for Cincinnati, 4 for 4 for the Ravens. It did just come down to that 2-point conversion and plenty of other little things throughout the course of the game. So the Ravens have a mini bye to rest up. That Kyle Hamilton injury, by the way, John Harbaugh did call it an ankle sprain. He's unsure how long he'll be out for, but it's not going to be characterized, it looks like, as a serious injury, which is a really, really big sigh of relief for the Ravens after missing him for the last 2.5 quarters of that game. That's all I have for you here today, though, on this episode of Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on the way out and follow along and subscribe in audio form for 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. Coming up, we'll be back here with a bonus episode tomorrow on the show. So be sure to stay tuned. I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.